Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie. I think I'm live now. Good morning, good morning. Hi, Mia. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Sunflower Charlemagne. And yes, I agree with you. So let's start where we're going to start. So I believe today is 75 years of the NHS. Good morning, Louisa. Let me just check that. Because, well, somebody mentioned it to me this morning, so I'm sure they're right. And it was a coincidence because I was already preparing this because of news that I'd seen this morning. Yeah, 75 years. 75 years of the NHS. Hi, Joanne. Hi, Princess. So as I was, looking at the news this morning, as I do, sometimes I wonder why I watch the news really, or look at the news. I don't really watch it. I look at it on the phone. There's always something depressing, like yesterday it was the lady with the 2 little girls being murdered. So I'm definitely looking out for that sentencing on Friday. Thank you, Princess. Hi, Joe H. And so I'm looking this morning, and of course I see this article about Captain Tom. Now, we all remember Captain Tom, I'm sure. Let me just get some photos of him up so we can look at him. Bless him. He captivated everybody's heart, didn't he? Oh, I think I've turned off the wrong things and leaving the right things on here. Anyway, let's get a photo of Tom, Captain Tom. He captivated everybody's hearts, didn't he, during COVID? Because he started off walking around his garden, didn't he, to to raise money. Started off in a small way, just to walk around his garden. The guy was in his late 90s. He started walking around his garden to raise money. Hi, Maltese. To raise money for the NHS. Now, as brilliant as I think it's nice that he did that, I did say at the time, well, why is he, the NHS actually is not a charity. The NHS is, people pay for the NHS and the government runs the NHS. But anyway, yes, it was a time when there was a lot of stress on the NHS, obviously, because of COVID. And so it was a nice thing to do regardless. But I do remember saying at the time, why for the NHS? But anyway, now I just want to show you the photos of him while I'm talking about him. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, he was a legend. So what I'm going to say this morning, I have no bad thing to say against Captain Tom himself. I think what he did in good faith. He comes from that generation, serviced country, etc. You can see from his medals and things. And, he was in the army, wasn't he? Let's see if I can find that picture of him when he was young. There's a lovely photo of him somewhere when he was in there, when he was in the army. So, yeah, I have nothing bad to say against Captain Tom whatsoever, or Sir Tom, because, of course, he was knighted. I don't believe in the honour service, but if anyone did deserve to be, occasionally people come along that do deserve an honour, and he was one of them. Hi, Aquarius. Yeah, well, so what I found out, Joanne G, is the money that Tom raised, and he did raise £33 million. Now, because of course his story was picked up, wasn't it, especially by Piers Morgan in Good Morning Britain, and of course I was watching a lot of that at the time. Of course, it was COVID. I couldn't work because I couldn't teach. That's when I started doing Zoom classes, and now actually I only do Zoom classes more or less. So it was a bit of a silver lining for me, because it showed me a way that I could teach, over the internet, which I wasn't really doing before. I only had one Skype student, and I didn't have any Zoom students. And of course, as a result of COVID, now probably all my students are a Zoom. So obviously at that time I wasn't working, so I was glued to probably like most of us were, glued to the TV for information about COVID. And then because I was here in Spain, so I'd be glued to the British TV about the information for my family and things like that, and then glued to the Spanish TV for information about what was happening here. But yeah, I remember thinking that, hi Mia, £33 million Captain Tom or Sir Tom raised for the NHS Charities. So at the time, as I say, I thought charities, well, the NHS isn't a charity, but because of this news this morning, I've looked into it a little bit more. Hi, Tony. So I looked into what was the charity that benefited from it. But anyway, so there's a couple of things I want to talk about as well. Gosh, there's so much. All I was going to talk about was Captain Tom and this situation with his daughter and his charity. But of course, that brings up so many other things, and I've gone into all sorts then when I've started looking about it. So let's read out this Sky News article first of all. So the news this morning was that Colonel Tom's daughter has been ordered to tear down her home spa, and the foundation, the Captain Tom Foundation that was set up in his name, has stopped taking donations because there's an investigation into it. I feel like Captain Tom was completely hijacked by his daughter. Anyway, the Captain Tom Foundation was set up in honour of Captain Sir Tom Moore, a 100-year-old war veteran who raised almost £33 million for NHS Charities Together. So this is what this charity is called, where the £33 million did go to the NHS Charities Together. Now, and they help out various things, but it was only created during COVID, this charity. So I've been trying to find out. So he did that. He raised that money by walking 1,000 laps of his garden, bless him, in 2020. Now, of course, it set off a lot of other similar. There was the young disabled lad who did the same, and I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, but there was it triggered off quite a lot of similar things, in this spirit of. I think it made us all feel inspired at a time that was generally, pretty shit for everyone, really, wasn't it? So there he is, bless him. Anyway, so now this Captain Tom Foundation says it's stopped taking donations after it emerged his daughter will have to tear down an unapproved home spa. Now, the Charity Commission has been investigating ever since Tom died, which I think was it was January, was it last year or the year before? 21, I think. Tom died, and the Charity Commission has been investigating ever since a month after his death. So I don't know what happened then that made them start investigating. Now, I don't know if you remember when he died, but what actually happened was he went off on holiday over the Christmas time with Piers Morgan, took him and the family away on holiday. And when he came back, he contracted COVID. Maybe that was just a bit too much. It was like a Caribbean holiday somewhere, quite a long way away, somewhere that didn't come under the COVID rules. Anyway, he came back and died of COVID. Anyway, planning bosses ordered an unauthorised building at Captain Tom's daughter's home to be demolished after plans for a block containing a spa pool were rejected. Oh, it would be nice, wouldn't it, to have a whole block added onto your house for a spa pool. Anyway, Hannah Ingram Moore and her husband Colin applied in 2021 for permission to build a Captain Tom Foundation building in the grounds of their home in Marston, Moreton, Bedfordshire. Plans for the site said it would be used partly in connection with the Captain Tom Foundation and its charitable objectives. So what she means is while she's lying in the spa, she'll be on her phone sending a few emails. Anyway, plans for the site said it would be used partly in... I've just read that, sorry. So this is her. This is Captain Sir Tom Moore's daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore. I mean, for God's sake, why didn't she just leave his memory alone? You know, he did what he did. And now it's all getting besmirched. You know, his legacy is being betrayed, I think. Anyway, apparently at the time, Central Bedfordshire accepted them. But the authority refused a retrospective application in 2022 for a larger building containing a spa pool. And a council spokesman said an enforcement notice requiring the demolition of the now unauthorised building was issued, and this is now subject to an appeal. So they're going to appeal for it. But this statement also comes amid a statutory inquiry by the Charity Commission over concerns about the charity's management and independence from the late veteran's family. So there you know, at least, thank God he's just not here to see it, because he had a great time, didn't he? He would have loved being knighted by the Queen, and I hope that holiday that he was taken on that probably gave him COVID, I just hope he had a good holiday, but he did have at least a great time for his last few years. Bless him. Right, I'm just coming back to make sure you're all okay in the chat. And haven't, if I missed anyone. Hi, Silver Moon Warrior. Yes, she did seem very suspicious. She used some of the money. Hi, Angela. That's right. That's what I'm just going to talk about now, Angela. She gave herself a job. I think it was £60,000 a year, but just for 3 days a week. Anyway, she's been taken away from that. Hi, Aquarius. I think I've said it. Hi, David. Yeah, lying in that spa that all the mugs have paid for. Hi, Pauline. Okay, so I can see you're all okay. So I'll go back to the Sky News thing. So a statement on the foundation site said, at this moment in time, the sole focus of the Captain Tom Foundation is to ensure that it cooperates fully with the ongoing statutory inquiry by the Charity Commission. As a result, the Captain Tom Foundation is not presently actively seeking any funding from donors. So they're no longer accepting payments. Good. Accordingly, we have also taken the decision to close all payment channels while the statutory inquiry remains open. And the charity said it would be in a better position to make a decision. That's my dog dropping its bone on the floor. Would be in a better position to make a decision in relation to its future once it had received the findings of the inquiry. So there he is with all his family. That must have been that be the day he got his knighthood. So the charity was set up in honour of Captain Sir Tom Moore, a 100-year-old war veteran who raised £39 million for NHS Charities Together by walking. We're going to look into NHS Charities Together in a moment, because when you look into these charities, anyway, I'll get onto that. Let's just deal with this. Okay, so he became a national hero. He was personally knighted by the late Queen for his efforts, and he died in February 2021. Now, of course, lots of horrible things happened that I definitely don't agree with. His memorial was defaced. Then it feels like his legacy is just being destroyed. You know, whatever he did, you know, he was like the hero, wasn't he? It was almost too much. It was like he just kept everyone going. He kept everyone's spirits up, and he made us all see, you know, that although COVID was awful and it was awful being in lockdown, I couldn't see, you know, I couldn't even get out of the country to see my family or anything. And apart from, you know, 10 Downing Street, who were all having parties every night and everything, everybody suffered during COVID in one way or another. If they lost their loved ones, they couldn't go along to their funerals, or they couldn't hug each other. They got, even the Queen at Philip's funeral sat completely separate from everyone, you know. So that was how it affected everyone except 10 Downing Street. By the, you know, they just carried on as normal, didn't they? And they think people will forget, but, you know, people won't forget. A friend of mine whose sister is Down syndrome, my friend lives in France, but the rest of her family live in Manchester. And her sister got COVID and had to die alone in the intensive care because nobody could go and see her. And my friend couldn't go to the funeral, obviously. I don't even know if there was a funeral because it was at that very peak time. Not a proper funeral anyway. So this is what, so all these things, everybody was affected. And, you know, we feel it very keenly, don't we? And so Tom, he was like one of those beacons of, like, you know, it was just nice to see him with his little smiling face and what he was doing. Anyway, a spokesman for the Charity Commissioner said it will not comment while the inquiry is ongoing. Now, I'm not sure how long this inquiry is supposed to take place, so I don't know. Anyway, opened a case into the charity in March 2021, a month after the veteran's death. Thank God he never got to see it, and expanded it into a statutory inquiry in June last year. Now, I was just looking to see if I could see where it says about her job. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, I suppose. But yeah, she awarded herself. She gave herself a job there. She awarded herself a salary of, I think it was either £60,000 or £80,000 a year for 3 days' work, a part-time job. She then eventually changed it to £100,000 a year for a full-time job. You know, it's just nepotism. You know, she was just there making the most of these donations, and now, and yeah, building herself a spa, etc. Bloody ridiculous. So that's the first thing. Oh, Joanne, I'm so sorry. You know, this is what means so many people these sort of things happen to, and they was it Rees-Mogg said, oh, it's time to move on. Yes, time to move on now, nothing to see here. Disgusting. But anyway, it's coming out, but it just takes a long time, doesn't it? Okay, so that's the situation, and that's what's made me start thinking about the NHS first of all. So the NHS, yes, 75 years today, one of the best things, you know, that ever happened, any of it. And I've got some American viewers. I don't know if there's any on at this time, but they'll tell you what it's like in America. You know, in America, you have to pay for everything, don't you? You know, you can't afford to be ill. So unless you have to, hopefully with you, sometimes jobs that offer the health insurance, don't they, as part of the benefits, or you have to take out private healthcare, etc. And when, like, the COVID injections came out, the vaccines, and when I had that problem with my eye and I had to have the operation on my eye, and that, I'm terrified of anything to do with the doctors. And it was my son, who's only 26, who said to me, you know, you have got to take these, like the vaccine, you've got to have the operation on your eye, because you're lucky that you live in a country where you can have these things free. You know, in other countries, they either haven't got the facilities to do it, or you have to pay. So, you know, he really sort of made me see how, you know, we are lucky. If we've got a health service, we're lucky. Yeah, £1,000 for an ambulance call out. I mean, God. So, you know, many of you probably don't know, and but in Spain, the health service is brilliant. The only problem someone sometimes British people whinge about it because they've got the language barrier, so it's different. It's different here. The nurses, they just do your care. They're not there for the TLC side of things. So if you have to stay in hospital for a couple of days, they expect your family. There's a bed that you're in a private room. It's like a private ward. You've got a private room with a self-contained shower and toilet, and you've got a put-me-up bed for your relative to stay over, because that's what they expect here. They expect that if you're in hospital overnight, some relative should come and stay with you to do the TLC side of things, get you a drink, etc. I mean, you get fed in the hospital just like you do in any hospital, but maybe, or get you up to go to the toilet in the middle of the night. Now, that's not to say that the nurses won't do it. You've got a bell there, but they won't come in and do it as a matter of course. If you want the nurse to come and help you with something, you've got to ring your bell, bring them in, and they'll do it if you haven't got a family member there with you. But a lot of British people don't know that, and they go, oh, the nurse never even came in to see us. But no, they won't, because that's what your bell's for. If you need them in the night, they're there just to give you your medication, do whatever dressings, medical things they need to do. They're not there in Spain to do the sort of extra, like the TLC side of things. Yeah. And now, yeah. Oh my God, Kelly, $2,300. Gosh. Yeah, the NHS covers. Oh, thank you. This is a new lipstick I got off Amazon. As always, I get everything off Amazon. What was I going to say about the ambulance care? Yeah, you can get. I think the ambulances are still free in the UK, but you have to wait hours, don't you? Now, I think, for an ambulance, and I mean hours. Oh, if you don't, so you can take out what, separate insurance, Kelly, or is it in your general healthcare insurance, or would you have to take out a healthcare insurance and then a separate ambulance cover, or I suppose it depends. Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah, Angela, they were all over. They were on. I wonder if Piers Morgan knew this family, because that's what he does normally. He brings on people that he sort of knows a little bit, or friends of friends. Separate, gosh. And it was Sir Tom was on GMB, Good Morning Britain, practically every morning. I mean, in the end, I was thinking, my God, poor guy, don't they ever give him a chance to rest? And Piers Morgan, he never mentions this now. It was all he talked about. And as I say, it was him that took them all off on holiday for the Christmas just before poor Tom contracted COVID. I mean, fancy taking a guy who's 100 years old to a country where they don't have any COVID restrictions. I mean, anyway, there you go. Yeah, so we used to have a good health service, didn't we? We did used to, and the health service was created. I honestly sometimes, and I think especially looking from the outside, when I look at Britain, I think we're going backwards instead of forwards. All the things that were brought in and created to help society, they're now being sort of chiseled away. I mean, will there still be a health service in another 75 years? And this charity, yeah, lots of people died waiting for an ambulance. I've got a couple of students learning Spanish on Zoom who are doctors in the UK, and they all say the same thing. It's terrible. The situation is dire. And for a doctor, they go on marches and protests, and, they're not like student doctors. These are doctors who are, well, one in particular is sort of semi-retired. So they're at the end of their profession, not worrying about, getting somewhere with their profession. They're there, they've done it. And the other one is a bit younger, but not, like maybe in her 50s. It's terrible. It's dire. They can't get staff. And that's got a lot to do with Brexit, isn't it? Because a lot of the Eastern Europeans are here in Spain now. We've had an influx of Eastern Europeans because it's easier for them to settle here. They can't get their visas sorted in Britain now, etc. Yeah, you can't get to see a doctor. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about that, Pauline. Anyway, so yeah, 75 years of the National Health Service. Will we have another 75 years? And something I want to know as well is, oh, I've got to present it. What happened to this? Remember this? We send the EU 350 million a week. Let's fund our NHS instead. Vote leave. Let's take back control. You know, just lies that they talked about then. I don't think that the NHS is less funded now than it was before. And I know that we've had COVID, but you know, every country has had COVID. Not only Britain that's had to deal with COVID. Every single country has had to deal with COVID one way or another. So first of all, where's the £350 a week? Where is it? Where's that gone? Because don't forget, we've got the charity now as well for the National Health that received 33 million just from Tom alone, apart from all the other donors or whatever. And what was the other thing I just wanted to say? Oh yeah. Yeah, so going back to this trust, it was a big con, Silver Moon Warrior, it was. They should be prosecuted for that, because you know, how do they, that is, I mean, all the evidence is there. No, we talk about evidence a lot, don't we, just lately? Evidence about, oh, where's the evidence? There's the evidence. It's clear as anything. Anyone can look it up. It happened, and it's just been brushed under the carpet. Makes me angry. But anyway, let's have a look at this National Health, what's it called? National Health Charity. So the National Health Charity, where is it? Together. Right, let's have a look at this. So this is where Tom's money went. So the money that Captain Tom raised supposedly went to this charity. So this is the NHS Charities Together. Okay, so it's still going. It was instigated during COVID. Now, see, I'm very suspicious about things that were instigated during COVID, because now we're finding out so many things that were like the Boys Network, weren't they? You know, like people given contracts because they knew a minister, and people made fortunes. That Michelle Mone, who she's now a lady in the House of Lords. This is why I hate the honour system, because it's just a joke. People that we've got a Russian person who's a lord in the British House of Lords. A Russian. Come on, whether he might be the most fantastic person in the world, but this is the British House of Lords, not the Russian House of Lords. So to me, I would just do away with all of it altogether, because it's used to reward people, or it's used as bartering. I don't know if you saw the most recent honours list from Boris Johnson, because any outgoing Prime Minister has the right to write a list of people he thinks should get honours, and some have been blocked, like Nadine Dorries, but there's some young girl that was like about in her 20s, been made a lady. She's the youngest ever lady, you know, she's going to be made a lady. She's only in her 20s. What has she done? What has she done that is so fantastic that she should be made a lady? Some young blonde girl in his office. Well, to me, some people are saying it's his daughter, which is you know, this is a rumour. This is a rumour. But it's either his daughter or someone he had an affair with. I mean, you know, why else would she be made a lady? To me, it's like Tom, he was knighted because he did something that made a difference. you have to do something to make a difference, not just be mates with the Prime Minister or mates with someone. So for me, I'd just get rid of it altogether. But anyway, so NHS Charities Together. Now, the CEO of this charity is Ellie Orton. Now, I don't know much about her. Looking back into her previous career before this, she's worked for like some, what can I say? So she's worked for like women's support groups and things like that. She seems to have, I'm not saying she hasn't done a lot of good work. She's got an OBE. She's been awarded an OBE last year. And so it says, we are the national charity caring for the NHS, supporting our incredible NHS workforce. Oh, hang on. Yeah, supporting our incredible NHS workforce when they need it most and improving care for patients and communities. Well, isn't the government supposed to do that? The NHS is not a charity. This is what I don't get. Where did this come from? This is a new thing. This only set up, I suppose, during COVID. It was overstretched. But if we've got this supporting us, and we've got the money that we're not giving to the European Union, we've got the money that Tom donated, etc., 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 why is the NHS disintegrating? Mental health support just doesn't exist in the UK. I know that from friends who have who've tried to get help for their children or teenagers, adolescents, and that there's nothing there. They have to pay privately. And the CEO of this charity is Ellie Orton. So let's have a look at her. OBE, Ellie Orton OBE. So she got her OBE last year. Look, she's young as well. She's quite young. Now, she might be a bloody fantastic person. I don't know, because I don't know her. I'm just saying, where did she come from? And how was this charity ever set up? Why has she got an OBE at quite a young age, to be honest? Oh, there she is with Prince William, and I can't even get started on the royal family. But anyway, so the other question I've got, and I've been trying all morning to find out, and there is no, you cannot find out, how much is she earning? So that's made me start looking at charities, what their CEOs earn. And I think probably most of us know that or suspect that charities, that CEOs of charities earn a lot of money, especially these big charities. So, yeah, Joanne G, I never give to big charities, never. That I do give to charities, but anyway, I'll explain that in a minute. So, the average CEO, now I don't know if she's an average CEO, Ellie Orton, she could be earning more, but the average earnings for a CEO of a charity are £175,000 a year. So why go into politics? You'd be better off becoming a CEO of a charity, wouldn't you? So, and I'm sure that includes the extra to that will be expenses. They've probably got a car, all sorts of things that they put through expenses. 175, that's the average. So she could be on more than that. She might be on less than that. But why couldn't I find this morning what she is on? And the only thing I found was a letter that someone had written requesting under the Freedom of Information Act what she was earning, and they were just batted about from place to place and nobody answered the question. So 175, you can't even conceive I don't know about everybody else's situation, but to me, gosh, just like you know, a tenth of that would be good, wouldn't it? Really, you know, it's like regular guaranteed income and expenses as well. So you didn't even have to pay for your petrol or etc. So this is why I never give, and I'm going to show you now some of the other charities. Okay. So these are, I mean, and this is quite old because this is what came up. I don't think it's been changed from about 2013 or something like that, or 15. So they're likely to be on more money now. Let me just share this with you. So this is on Wikipedia. These are the biggest charities and what their CEOs earn. Hi, Desi. So, look at this. So we've got Age UK, CEO salary 190,000. Amnesty International, CEO 210,000. And that, if I ever gave to any charity, that would be one, you know, that I'd be perhaps likely to give to, but well, I wouldn't give it. It's been a long time since I've given any money to a large charity. I mean, when I was young, I was in like, Greenpeace and, you know, lots of sort of these type charities I would donate to. But now, nah. So the Anchor Trust, this Jane Ashcroft, she's earning £420,000 a year. And this is a not-for-profit provider of housing, care and support to people over 55 years old. And then they merged with another housing association. Right? 400, and it's nice work if you can get it, isn't it? Then when we get to this, the Arts Council England is only 40,000. I mean, it's still bloody good, isn't it? But at the end of the day, it's a vast difference. I don't know why maybe he's already rich in his own right. I don't know, but that seems like such a massive difference. Bernardo's Javed Khan, £209,999 a year. So children are suffering, and he's earning £209,999 a year. You know, it's disgusting. Look at the children in need. I never give to children in need, and I know people like children in need and get involved. I never give to it. So the CEO is earning, well, it's quite a small amount compared to some of the others. Simon Antrobus is earning £134,425 a year. The British Heart Foundation, £180,000 a year, Simon Gillespie. The British Red Cross, Mike Adamson, £173,000 a year. Cancer research, which is important. Cancer research is important, but why is Harpal Kumar earning £240,000 a year? Then we've got the cancer support, Kieran Devane, 170,000, the NSPCC, 162,000, Oxfam, 100, Oxfam, Danny, I can't pronounce your surname, you need to get, you're earning what is a paltry amount of £120,936 a year. The National Trust, 179,000, Nuffield Health. What is Nuffield Health? Nuffield Health is the United Kingdom's largest healthcare charity. It is independent of the National Health Service and is constituted as a registered charity. £840,000 a year. The Prince's Trust, £140,000 a year. RSPCA, 140,000. Scope, 129,000. Shelter, 122. Sight Savers, 144. St Andrews Healthcare, £433,000. So St Andrews Healthcare is a large independent charity based at St Andrews Hospital in Northampton, which provides psychiatric services. How is someone earning 433,000? You can't. I mean, these are figures you make up, surely. St John Ambulance, 140,000. WaterAid, 128,000. And this Wellcome Trust, which is a health research based in London, pharmaceutical, big pharma probably, £445,220 a year. So I think if you look around, I think those that are earning roundabout, I know they have to attract good people, and I suppose if they can earn this sort of like 120,000 or whatever in other, to attract sort of good people to be their CEOs. But you see what I'm saying? When it goes over 120, to me, once it goes over 100, really, why these massive amounts? I mean, they're just, people are actually earning that. Good God. So, what do you think about that? We're all fuming. The more you look into things, you do get angry, don't you? Because you just think these things, they just sort of pass over us. And during COVID, a lot of organisations were set up, weren't they? Like, especially for the PPE gear and stuff. They were all, money companies were set up. It was all like, people made fortunes out of COVID, absolute fortunes. Yes, I don't know. Well, Pauline, your 400, is that £400 a month? That's just a meal out to them. That's just a meal out. So, yeah, Louise, Steve. So, this is where this led me this morning. I started off just being a bit annoyed about poor Captain Tom's memory and then his daughter, and then you go into everything else and you think, bloody hell. So that's why I never, ever give to these kind of charities. So if I want to donate to a charity, there's quite a lot of animal charities here that I don't donate to, because they're individual. I know them. They're individual people that are helping rescue animals, and they have the food to pay and the vet's bills, etc. And every now and again, I drop them some money here and there. There's smaller children's charities. Again, like these very small ones that need help, and they're non-profit. I mean, I don't expect people to do their work for nothing. Work is work. But that is ridiculous. And this is what I was trying to say yesterday about culture wars and things like that. They get everybody arguing between themselves at things, but people need to look up and see what's going on up there. These are, small charities people are hijacking. These are the people that, really taking the piss, to be honest. And then in the meantime, they're trying to stir everybody up, so they're all arguing between themselves about things and fighting between themselves, when really those people are the one, we should all be sticking together and looking up at them and thinking, hey, how are you getting away with that? If somebody's on benefits and they do a little job and get 20 quid in the hand or 50 quid in the hand, I know that's against the law, but really, is it as big as these kind of things? This to me is robbery on a big scale, I think. So I never give to a big charity, and I just don't. I couldn't bring myself to, not even children. And it's difficult sometimes, because sometimes people don't understand. I have family members who sometimes they do things for charities, bigger charities, and I'll always say, right, well, what's the charity? And I do an invest, and they'll say, oh, will you sponsor me in this because I'm doing this walk, or I have to look into the whole thing and see where the money's going first. I'd rather give a fiver, like we have sometimes people sitting outside the supermarkets, asking for money, or I'm sure you do that. I'd rather give them a fiver just in the hand. I don't want it to go to, I don't even care if they then go around the corner and buy a can of beer with it. If they're living on the streets, they deserve a can of beer. What else have they got? So I'd much rather do that, but that's how I feel about it. Yeah, and exactly. Matt Hancock, or Half-Cocked, I used to call him. He's got heavily involved. They've got lots of, there's lots there, isn't there? Friends that he gave contracts to, etc. Well, that's right. Most people, exactly, a bit of work on the side to get by, and then they say that's, they'll go to prison a benefit cheat if and it might be a pathetic amount of money. It's not that sort of money. Yeah, buy them some food. As a little old lady that sits, and she's like, no, at the end of the day, I think, well, if you're going to sit there all day in the boiling heat, I don't want to do that. So people say, oh, they're earning fortunes doing that. Well, go and sit there all day in 40 degrees heat, asking for money, an old lady. But you can buy them a bag of shopping, or you could just buy them something useful if you don't want to give them money. Oh, sponsor a child overseas. Yes. Oh, don't. Anyway, there was something else I was going to say that, was it Pauline said something, but I've lost it maybe. Yeah, the PDSA, but you might be worth looking at them. You might be better off going to a little, just taking them some dog. So that's something I do with a dog charity here. I mean, they're not a big charity, but sometimes I'll go and just take a load of dog food and drop it off for them, or have it delivered. Small charities helping animals. Now, Pauline asked me something, but I've lost it. Anyway. She asked, do you get many homeless in Spain? Well, there are homeless, yeah. I mean, I only live in, as I say, in a small place. In Madrid, there is a lot of homeless, just like in London. And in fact, I found that very upset. I don't like, I went to Madrid once on holiday, and we sat in the main square, which is like, because Madrid, I don't know if you know, is the actual centre of Spain. And in the square, that is literally, you are sat in the centre of Spain. And we sat there having something to eat. It's a very famous sort of place to visit when you go to Madrid. Lovely restaurants and that. And as we were sat there, I suddenly realised that actually there's a load of homeless people all around this square. And I expect it's pleasanter to be homeless in Spain, because at least it's not freezing cold most of the time. I mean, it does get cold, and I couldn't sit there and eat a meal and see these homeless people just sat there. I think homelessness is a scourge. There's everybody should have a home, even if it's just unless they've always been, and there'll be people, there'll be tramps, we'd call them, where because some people voluntarily don't, for whatever reason, choose to disappear or drop out of society. But for someone who wants somewhere to live, there should always be somewhere for them to live. I don't know how we can, I'm not saying I've got the answers, I don't know how to resolve it, but it's I think modern countries should be ashamed of homelessness. So yeah, there are some homeless people in my little village, not many, but there are some, and there are charities. But they're not national charities. There's a charity near where I am that's just a small charity. I know the people who run it, so I'm quite happy to donate to them. I've got a friend who's a hairdresser. She goes and cuts their hair once a week, one morning a week. She dedicates to just going and doing the haircuts for free, obviously, for all the anyone, for the homeless people, etc. So there's, it's like on Christmas Day, there'll be food provided and you can go and help out with that if you want. So yeah, it's not that I don't agree with charity, though. Having said that, I do feel like a good society doesn't need charity. If a society works properly, charity, sometimes I think it's, if everybody was more equal, I'm not a communist, but if everybody was more equal, you wouldn't need charity so much. It's like the food banks now. I mean, when I left Britain 25 years ago, I never even heard of a food bank. Now there's more food banks in Britain than there are McDonald's. It's become a culture, Yeah, Friends of the Earth, I don't know anything about that one. But all I would say, if you're planning on donating to a charity, just make sure you know where the money's going. Because if the CEOs of the charity that you're donating to are earning this sort of money, £420,000 a year, £173,000 a year, 240. You know, that you've got to think about, well, where is my fiver actually going? You know. Do you know, Desi? I think a lot of charities will have suffered from the cost of living costs because, thing is, you can't give to everyone, can you? You can't give to everyone. You've only got a limited amount of money yourself. So you can only give so much. And then when that's now been squeezed, I think they will. And I think homeless people will have suffered because also now we don't have so much cash. What I've noticed now is I rarely, when I go to places where I see that I know that there's normally someone that sat outside, I'll always give them €1 because I think, well, if it doesn't matter, then in a day they might make €50. Well, good for them, it's like, but now I rarely have cash because you don't have cash so much now. So that's a choice. The same card was getting sent year by year to the family. Yeah, the sponsored person was fake. Well, it doesn't surprise me. Yeah, you're struggling. It's right, David. You're struggling to give your £2 or £3 or whatever to a charity because you feel like you should help in some way. And in the meantime, they're in the spa with a bottle of champagne. That. So what are they doing for charity? Why don't they donate their massive salary back into that charity, or keep a normal amount like most people have to live on, or even more than that? If they keep 50,000 a year, that's really, at the end of the day, that's a decent amount to live on, a very good amount to live on. Why don't they donate the rest back? Now, don't. So I'm asking you for some charity now. It's not really. I'm just asking for you to like the video, if you would. That would be a big help for me if you press like. Yeah. Do you think that charities have really suffered, Silver Moon Warrior? I mean, that's maybe something I need to look at as well. Yeah, if you give food, but food banks. Do you see what I'm saying though, Desi? I mean, I was poor. I was poor. My family were poor. I was born on a council estate. We never had any money. There was 5 of us. My parents had 5 children. Quite sort of over, there was a bit of an age difference between us and that. But my parents never had any money. But we didn't have to go to a food bank. We used to get free school meals. Well, this government even wants to stop that. It's like free school meals. We did get that, I remember, because you used to get a little green ticket, and and that would be your free school meal. I do remember that, but we certainly never went to a food bank. And to be fair, my parents did smoke as well, so I don't quite know how they managed that. But yeah, small animal charities who are close to your heart. Well, that's it. It doesn't matter. The thing is, that's exactly right, Joanne, and if you haven't got a lot, especially, you don't want to give your £1 or your £5 or whatever it is, and know that 80% of that goes to pay their salary. You want to give your £1 or your £2 or your £3. You want to give that and know that that goes to the person you want, to the charity that you want it to go to. They have to earn something. I know that, people if they run a charity full time, they have to have a wage. I'm not saying they shouldn't have a wage. What I'm saying is it's ridiculous. Yeah. David says he was that poor, he was sent next door with a button and asked them to sew a shirt on it. Yeah, that's it. I think that, but see that sort of being, don't you feel like that's coming back? That's coming back, all that. Like, I feel like we're going back in time. Things that that used to happen. I remember my dad used to tell me about the workhouses and stuff, because he was from that era. My dad could remember in his living memory that people were selling children under the arches in Manchester town centre in the Industrial Revolution. People would sell their children. So that was within his living memory. Now, of course, the war, that was a positive thing that came out of the Second World War, was when all the soldiers came home, and my dad was a sailor in the Second World War, it was all that homes fit for heroes to live in. So, you know, before the war, there was no secure housing, you know, so you were always one step from the workhouse, or you were always one step from being turfed out of your house because you couldn't pay the rent or whatever. And when my dad came home from the war and all the other servicemen came home, that's when they started building the council houses and stuff like that. So homes fit for heroes to live in. And that's when society started to change, because British society started to get better, because these people, they put so much, and, you know, they're giving up so much for their country and that. And now I feel like it's all going backwards. But that's how I feel. I love charity shops. Charity shops are great. You go to a charity shop, and I buy lots of things in charity shops. God, what have we done to me? It's just, oh, it's so hot again. It's so hot. I'm moaning about the heat again. Hello, sailor. Oh. Yeah, you get some brilliant clothes from a charity shop, don't you? Yes, that's the other thing that's changed, David. You know, it's a whole different society now. Not only you'd walk straight into a job. I remember being at school and all the companies came to us, like when you're in your last year at school, didn't they? They were all there, the banks and big companies and what be trying to recruit us all because they needed staff. Of course, now they don't need staff. There's too many people. Artificial intelligence is doing a lot of things as well. So anyway, the divide has started to get bigger again. It narrowed and now it's getting bigger. So all this has come from just me seeing that headline about poor Captain Tom this morning, and it's as soon as you start looking into things and you start going into things more. And what really sort of got me was then when I was trying to find out something about this Ellie Orton, who's the CEO of the NHS Charity, and I couldn't find out what she was earning. That should be transparent. What are they trying to cover up? I couldn't find anywhere what she is earning. But the average wage of a charity CEO is £175,000 a year. So, oh look, we should have it, because it's handy to get tips from people about. Everyone's had to cut back, haven't they, from the cost of living crisis. Same here in Spain, the prices went up in the supermarkets, etc. So you just have to get more sort of specific in what you buy, more careful with things, making things last longer. It's just when you've lived on not much, I feel in my life, especially in Spain, sometimes I've earned more money than others. It depends on classes. Or then there was the recession, then there was COVID and didn't earn anything, you know, for 6 months. So it's you sort of, but when you're not earning much, you do learn how to, you do learn how to cope on less money. But I just cannot imagine earning that amount of money a year. I mean, that's like £178,000 a year. What are you going to spend that on? Yeah, the prices haven't gone down, have they? That's the thing. The prices haven't really gone down yet. Oh, little bits. Yeah, upcycling. You've been doing it since the 90s when it wasn't. You know, but it's good also, Pauline, not only for the money side of things, but of course now we're supposed to be saving the planet. That's the other thing. You know, you've got to recycling. You can't just. We've got such a throwaway society. You know, there's a lot of things that you can do. Paint on fabric. Oh. Well, there are things. There's so many things you can do. You can, so old clothes you can make into cushion covers and things like that. Can't we? Should do a video on that one day. Not all our tips for saving money, and then try and communicate them to my son, who doesn't. Of course, he doesn't. If you don't, if it's not you who's paying the bills, you don't tend to worry about saving money too much. So I've got Save, and he's got better. You know, the electricity. Oh, I've got hair in my eye. You know, he's a generation where he's very hot on, you know, saving the world and the environment, except when he wants to have his air conditioning on because it's boiling. $10, because I think $10 is about €10. I think dollars and euros are similar. You know, David, that I think that's almost deliberate by the government to make the wages so low, and then people think, what's the point in working? I honestly do think that. I think well, we'll see what happens if we get a change of government, but maybe nothing will change. But I do think there's some sort of you know, well, they're even talking now, aren't they, about bringing in a benefit to pay people to stay at home because they haven't got the jobs for them anyway. And that's why the Eastern Europeans would do the jobs, because they were low wages. But now they can't do them now because they can't get their visas, etc. So, yeah, it takes the weight off the government. And also what you've got to remember is that gives them this accusing people of things. You know, they can they're setting people against each other. Oh, people on benefits, this, that, and the other, or people that you know, there's all this culture wars that I was talking about yesterday. I do think that's a deliberate thing. Keep you all down. That's right. But we're not staying down now. You've got to be aware. That's it. You've just got to, you know. You can change things if you all stand together, but of course this is what's happening probably in France at the moment. They're all getting aerated, aren't they? But they tend to get, but we can't protest now, you know. British people, it's hard to protest because protest has been really sort of stamped on. So Pauline, do you remember when I was at school? I don't know, it was like that. So the girls would do domestic science and the boys would do woodwork. Like, you couldn't do that now, could you? Because it'd be too. So it was just, you know, there was the girls did the domestic science and the sewing, embroidery and things, and the boys did woodwork, like the men's things. And you could choose, but the only boys that chose to do domestic science were the boys that were like the bad boys, because they thought it'd be easy. So, okay. Have I got anything else to say? Not today. So that's it for today, but I'll be back. Where am I? Do you know, I haven't known what day it is this week. It's Wednesday. So I'll definitely be back on Friday for the Friday Night Live. And I'm thinking of, anyway, I'll let you know nearer the time what I'll be doing then. But I may be back in the meantime, of course. Oh, and if the actual verdict of the guy who murdered that poor lady and her children is live on Friday, I probably will come on for that. I'm making you grow. Okay. So thank you so much for being here. As I say, don't forget to like, and I'll see you very soon. Don't forget to always live and love very wisely and very carefully, and look after your pennies. Oh, look, you're all chatting on there. I feel bad when I'm going, when you're all having a nice chat on there. I'll leave it on a little bit so you can carry on chatting. But until I see you again, may your gods all go with you. Thank you so much.